Most online fitness coaches tend to lose their clients at about months 3 and 4. If this is happening to you, then it is almost impossible to scale past 5 to 10K per month because all of your energy is spent on continually having to replace these clients. For myself, when I was coaching, I had clients that were with me for more than 5 years online. So I'm going to run through in this video the 5 things that I feel had my clients want to check in, got better results, and were the reasons that they stayed with me long term. Number 1 is I had a short check-in form and I audit their check-in process and I look at the forms so on that the clients are expected to fill in. They're really long type forms that just ask monotonous questions. That's like scale of 1 to 5, how is your sleep? Scale of 1 to 5, how is your digestion? Scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the week? How is your adherence? List out 3 big wins from the last 7 days. In what capacity can I help you further? This is fine for the first 1 or 2 check-ins, but once a client's been with you for 2 months, 3 months, those forms become A, repetitive and monotonous, and B, they take too much time. My clients is I would literally ask them for current program goal, last week's body weight, this week's body weight, last week's circumference measurements, this week's circumference measurements, average daily steps, any deviations, done. It was like 5.6 max. They could do the whole form in 4 minutes. And it allowed me to just cut to the chase, see what the issue was and just correct it. Whereas the problem is that I see so many coaches have question after question after question after question. When it comes to the check-in, they're not actually taking any of it into account. So if a client was to grade their sleep 4 out of 5 one week, 3 out of 5 on another, back to 4 out of 5, their digestion was 3 out of 5. Most coaches don't actually change anything in the check-in. I've seen this, every audit that I've done. I look at what the client's fed back, I look at the advice given, and it's still talking about the same things, which is always, don't worry that you had a meal off plan at the weekend, blah, 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 blah. Go and audit your current check-in form and make sure you are only asking for the questions that are actually going to dictate the changes that you're going to make this week. The second thing is, where we have become so efficient with, tech and so on in the coaching space, whether it's conditional logic, whether it's just using, simple type forms and so on, because what tends to happen is a client is confined to a text-based field on a type form that they're quickly typing on their phone or whatever. So the chance of them actually opening up and going through any of the stuff, within their personal life is like 0. They're not going to do it. Whereas when I was working with my clients, they would have the simple form to fill in, but then I would encourage them to attach just like a brain download, a word vomit. And this was often the most therapeutic thing for them because they didn't have a chance to do it to anybody else. So I would have my clients talk about their annoying colleague at work, the weekend that they just had, and the amazing restaurant that I should go check out myself, the Marvel marathon that they're doing with their 2 sons. Those things that are like infinitely more important than whether they had a one-off planned meal. Not only would I encourage you to trim down your form, I would also give them space, whether it's a voice note, whether it's a Loom to you, whether it's an email, whether it's a text-based WhatsApp, but give them an area to be able to just vent, basically. Really, really overlooked, massively important. Next up is I solved one problem. So it's like a 7 to 10 minute Loom every single week of them just trying to fix everything. And here's the problem. Problem number 1 is that outside of the first 1, 2, or 3 weeks, our clients are busy. The chances of them sitting down, like I am now on a laptop, and listening intently for 8 minutes to you, listening to it, on their phone, when they're on the commute, when they're on the school run, when they're cooking dinner, that sort of thing. So these check-ins need to become more concise, more to the point. They need to solve one issue. So you need to use the coach framework, which is this. Instead of doing a check-in where you're trying to fix everything and you're trying to don't worry about eating out the weekend and are you weighing your food, are you tracking your sources and all these things, your job as a coach is number 1, to highlight the core issue. So you go through their check-in and you want to figure out what is the one thing that if I just fix this one thing this week, will move them in the right direction. That's your first job as a coach, is to identify and highlight the one core issue. The second thing that you want to do is you then want to relate this to an actual story that you've gone through yourself, where you've gone through the same problem, or where you've helped a client manage it. So it could be eating out at the weekend, for example, and it could be, hey, actually my client that I worked with, last month, she also had XYZ with client dinners, and here's what we did instead. And then the final thing, so once you've identified the one core issue, once you've related this to an actual story of yourself or a current client going through the process, You then want to agree on the future, the change. And here I would give 1, 2, or maximum 3 action steps to fix this one core issue. But instead, what most coaches do on a check-in is go through it and they'll try and like fix something here, 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 fix something here. Okay, good job, keep going. Let me know if you need anything during the week and I'll speak to you. And it's just too much, this just overwhelms the client. Whereas instead, if you go through it, you highlight this one issue and then make the 3 action steps to like correct the issue. That is how you actually make change, and it's how a client feels heard and is clear on what they need to do next. Fourth is I used all 4 levers of progression. So what I mean by this is nutrition, training, cardio, and supplementation. Again, when I audit online coaches and I look at their check-in process and I look at where a client of theirs started at week 1 in terms of what were their calories, macros, what were the cardio recommendations, what were the baseline supplements that they were recommended, how does their training program look, and then I go and compare it at week 6, week 12, and so on. 9 times out of 10, it's pretty much the same. It's maybe their program has just been like overhauled twice because of every 4 weeks. That's what every coach does. But that's about it. There's no real like progression amongst the nutrition. With the training, there's no, here's our foundational program. Now here's, the advancement we're going to do on this. Here's the advancement we're going to do on that. There's no methodical progression through training. It's just a completely overhauled routine every 4 weeks. And then there's no changes to supplements. Cardio is often just from day 1, it's like, hey, you should hit 10K steps. No matter that they come to you doing 1,500 steps per day and you're expecting them to 10X that from day 1 versus you're averaging 1,500 right now. Let's just hit 3K. If we can just do 3K steps per day for the next 4 weeks, we're good. That's progress. And then you get to week 5 and it's like, okay, can we take this from 3K steps now to 5? Straight away you 5X them from day 1 versus day 1 giving them 10K steps and they don't follow it. So it's to make small progressions across nutrition, training, cardio, and supplements so that the client feels like they're moving forwards each week. Just you trying to put out fires on every check-in, trying to solve every problem, but in reality, you're going to say the same thing next week, the same thing next week, the same thing next week. And ultimately, if you look big picture at the plans that you gave to the client from day 1, it's exactly the same. But you're just spending each week just trying to fix everything. The client gets overwhelmed and never truly progresses in one area. And then the 5th and final thing is, where possible, I met up with my clients in person. Don't get me wrong. Being online is amazing. Being able to work from your laptop, from your phone is phenomenal. But there's something really magical about meeting your clients face to face without a screen. So, I used to do photo shoots with certain clients and then I would take them for a meal afterwards. We would do group shoots where I'd have 5 or 6 of my female clients all meeting at the same gym to do like group shoots. And then we'd all go for a meal. We would do training workshops. So I'd say to my clients, hey, I'm going to be at this gym in this location, which not all of them could get to, Sunday at 2 p.m. Let's go through a bit of a training workshop together. And I would correct them on that. Sometimes we would do just coffee meetups. Hey, for all my clients here, I'm going to be in this coffee shop, Monday afternoon, love to grab you a coffee. And then some of the most important ones were just actually personal catch-ups. So one of my clients, Hetan, who was with me for probably 5.5 years, him and I, every Christmas, would meet up and we'd have a steak and an old fashioned at Hawksmoor in London. Again, I just don't see enough other coaches like meeting their clients face to face. So just to quickly recap, number 1, I think it's really important that you go through your current client check-in form and you go, where are the inefficiencies here? How can I make this easier, more simple for the client to fill in so it's faster for them and so that ultimately I can make my job easier? Number 2 is, once I've made the form easier, does my client have anywhere where on a personal level, they can just offload to me and we can actually truly have a chance to build rapport versus me giving sort of one-dimensional answers, based on their type form responses. Number 3 would be, are you guilty of doing really long Loom check-ins where you just say the same thing every week and you're not really giving them any key takeaways and things to fix? If so, I want you to start identifying the one key problem and then giving them 1, 2, or 3 steps that's going to fix that problem. They focus on that for 7 days, and then in the next check-in, you're solving the next problem, and then the next one. Trying to do everything at once as a shotgun approach is just going to overwhelm both of you. Are you using all 4 levers of progression? So if I was to go look at one of your current clients from week 1, week 6, week 12, week 18, am I going to see progressions within their training that make sense? Am I going to see progressions with how you are coaching them on nutrition? Am I going to see changes and tweaks in the supplements based on how they're responding? Am I going to see a progression in how you set up either their NEAT or their conscious cardio or whatever? And then the last one would be, when was the last time you met up with any of your current clients? When was the last time you started to build a community with them and had them meet up with each other? If you're not doing any of this, I would look here first, solve these 5 things, and suddenly you're going to have clients that are leaving at month 3 and 4, stay with you until months 7 and 8, and then you can fix the next problems and get them to months 11 and 12 and so on and so on. So I hope this has been useful. If you like this sort of very tactical information, go check out the rest of my videos on my channel. I think you'll get a ton of value from them.